Hey everyone, CPO here, and in this video I'm installing the JK concealed carry security drawer from Tuffy Security Products into my 2015 Jeep Wrangler. And I should note, it's the Wrangler Unlimited, the 4-door. I believe this will only fit with a 4-door, and this is for the driver's side. They come in both a passenger side and a driver's side version, different angles and different bracketry. This is for the driver's side, and it's going to go in, basically it's going to slide underneath the seat, and then the two front seat bolts are going to hold it in place. Now there is an option for a third security bolt to be installed in the back, and I'm going to do that. And one of the reasons I'm going to do that is because nobody ever does that. Like, there's a few posts on the interwebs, people talking about doing it, but there's no video showing that process. Now, it's kind of an odd thing that I'm doing this because I think there's supposed to be a hole somewhere on here for that bolt that you're supposed to mark and drill into your floor. I don't even have a hole. So many people don't use that third hole that, I don't know, Tuffy may have said, look, screw it. If you want to put a third hole, make your own. So I don't know, but I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to drill a hole in the security box and then use the supplied bolt that they give you to secure this to the floor. Now, it seems like a lot of work to add that third. A lot of people don't do it, and I completely understand why. There's two big bolts holding this thing in. The reason I want to add that third is because I don't want anybody with a crescent wrench to be able to come in and remove my security box. Really, a crescent wrench, maybe a breaker bar, remove these two front bolts and the entire thing just slides right out. With that third bolt, you have to literally remove the drawer, which means you have to have the key to get to that third. There will be a bolt protruding on the bottom side, and then I think it's an Allen little bolt head on the top. But if you don't have an Allen wrench in there, you're just going to spin that nut on the bottom. So my plan is, I get it. A lot of this stuff, if anybody really wants in, they're going to get in. It doesn't matter what I do. They're going to find a way to get in if they want it bad enough. I just want to make it difficult on them. I want you to be more creative if you're going to steal my stuff than having a crescent wrench on you. So anyway, that's why I'm doing that. And yeah, let's get to the install. All right, so it's going to go right under here, and as you can see, it's pretty nasty down here. So I'm actually going to take this opportunity to clean this mess up. This is several years of crud collecting, and as you can see, yeah, it's not pretty. So anyway, we're going to remove this bolt here and this one up here. I actually have a holster there on that bracket as well, so I've got to remove all that. And there is a bracket underneath here that's holding your wiring harnesses that you're going to have to remove for clearance. If you choose to just go that far, then that's really all you need to do. Again, I'm going to drill that bolt hole down there, and yeah, I'm gonna have to drill my own hole in the Tuffy drawer as well. So let me get this thing cleaned up. All right, that's probably the cleanest that underneath my driver's seat has ever been. So thank God for drain plugs and the holes that come with them. I will recommend, if you haven't ever removed these, go ahead and hit them with some PB Blaster. That will help a lot. I've removed mine recently. Let that work in for a few minutes before you get started. You'll probably thank me for it. These are, I believe they're blue, Loctited in, so there is a thread locker on these, so they're going to be tough regardless. If you can get an impact in there, all the more power to you. At a minimum, you'll probably need a breaker bar. So this is going to be an 18 millimeter right here. Made easy thanks to this DeWalt. Now the other one not so easy because I have this bracket that's in the way. It doesn't let me get the impact on there. So yeah, I gotta do it old school. I've had this off recently. All right, so I've got both these front bolts removed. My bracket is still in place, but it's sort of hovering. It's actually bolted down with a second bolt back here underneath. So I'm just gonna leave that there. I don't think it'll be in the way. Now we have to do one more thing before we can slide the new concealed carry drawer under there, and that is there's actually two T30 Torx bolts that are holding a bracket that is securing some wiring harnesses here. What I'm doing is I'm removing the harnesses first, not unplugging them. So both these harnesses are on these little sliding like bracket mounts. So you can slide them both off the bracket. Then there's a couple of wire like harness holders that I'm just pushing up from the bottom and wiggling and removing those from the bracket. These guys here, so you just push them up from the bottom, make them come free, and then on these brackets there's these little sliding things. You just slide them off. So that gets both of these free. Here's the other one. This has got little push things on it, and again, this one had a little sliding connector. So those are both free. Now I don't know if you'll have two or one on your particular vehicle. I have side impact airbags in the seats, so I may have an extra connector. That's probably what that yellow one is for. So now that we have those off, it'll be easier to reach under here and find those two Torx bolts that are holding that bracket in place, but even more importantly, it'll be easier for me to get like a ratchet in there. All right, so on mine, it happens to be a T27 is the size. I've done a couple of installs where it calls for a T30 Torx, where mine is an actual T27. So I'm not sure if somewhere down the line they made a change. So some Jeeps may have 30, some Jeeps may have 27, but just so you know, mine's a 27. Not a whole lot of room down here, but once you get those plugs off the bracket, it goes pretty quickly. I know some people choose to just take off the entire seat. You know, 2 bolts in the back, 2 bolts in the front, and the entire seat comes loose. And then you can just take it outside the Jeep and pull this bracket off. It's up to you how much you have a tolerance for fighting with tight spaces. Once you get that first bolt removed, you can rotate that bracket and it'll make it easier to get to the second one. All right, so here's this bracket. Once I got it out, basically, this is the outside of the Jeep, and this is the front, bolted in, and then here's where those little harnesses clipped in for me. So we'll remove that, get that out of the way, and we'll zip tie those harnesses back up. But before that, I'm gonna do a test fit real quick. All right, so I'm sliding this in from the front. The outside most bracket is gonna go on top of the bracket for the secure drawer, and then the drawer bracket is going to go on top of the innermost. So it's going to sort of wedge in like that and then fit on top of the seat bracket here. So just like that. I can see they're just basically going to zip tie right up here along this frame rail. You can do them on the inside, but just like that. All right, so before I get too carried away, I need to figure out where I'm going to drill that hole for the third security bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and stab in these bolts just to make sure I've got decent alignment. Get a couple threads turned. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this drawer. To do that, you need the key. I'm gonna open it up. And then as I get to this point, on each side, there's this little black lever. And so I'm gonna flip it and slide it completely out. Obviously easier to do with the drawer out of the Jeep, but So this one on the outside is going to push down. The other side is going to lift up. By the way, this is the drawer. A lot of space in there actually. All right, so with that, I can get a look for where that bolt hole is going to go, and it's literally going to go right here on the seam, it looks like. And then I'm going to drill a similar hole on the drawer itself. So what I'm looking at is where I need to drill the hole on the box. I think I'm going to make a little mark on the outside of that. Like essentially as far back as I can get it, really, is what I'm going for. And then I'm going to look underneath the Jeep to see where that lines up. Okay, there's nothing in the way. There's a cross member brace, but there's nothing, yeah, nothing in the way, so should be good to go there. I believe most everybody else, unless they've changed it, won't have to drill this hole I'm about to drill. And you'll just have to mark it on the floor, but I've got to drill it and then mark it. And I'll give you a good look. You can see the bottom of the enclosure is essentially the drawer. It's bottomless. So if you're looking for waterproof, watertight, this isn't it, but this is secure. And there is a little bit of a weather stripping here at the ridge just to keep water from coming in through the top. But if you flood your Jeep, the stuff inside is going to get wet. So just, you know, just trying to set realistic expectations. All right, so now I'm going to go drill a hole, it looks like, right here. All right, there's my hole. I don't know if that's where Tuffy put it or not, but that's where I put it. And I'm just going to paint. All right, now I'm going to slide this back in without the drawer. Make sure my wiring harness cables are out of the way. Start the bolt. Make sure you start the bolt on both sides because it will rotate a little bit if you don't. What I should be able to do is go in, look through the inside, which is going to be the part I can't really show you, and I'm going to mark where that hole goes. I'm basically coloring it with a Sharpie, as much of it as I can get, which isn't a whole lot. Pull it back out. Keeping in mind, if you guys didn't want to do this step, we'd have been long done by now. I personally think it's worth the extra security. If you're going to take the trouble to install a concealed carry lockbox in your Jeep, you may as well take the extra 15 or 20 minutes or an hour or whatever it's going to take to make sure that it really is secure. All right, so now you can see that black mark there I have right here. That's for me marking. I'm going to move the seat all the way forward. All right, so unfortunately, I was hoping I could move the seat far enough forward that I could get at this, and I can get at it with an angle, but I'm basically just playing games on trying to get the hole centered. Honestly, for me, I just assume remove these two bolts in the back and shove the seat out of the way, drill that hole and be done with it, instead of messing around with trying to figure out how to make a hole in a place where I don't have access. I'll just make the access really quick. If I had a right angle drill, it'd probably work perfect, but I don't. So, you know, getting creative. All right, so all I did was shove the seat forward. Gives me room to drill. Now I'm going to stab this through and leave it so I can go underneath. I've got brake lines running right here, and you can see where that drill bit's coming out. I've got plenty of room, but it's nice to know how close I am to those brake lines. That's perfect. All right, so let me clean that up, and I'll paint that, and then we'll do another test fit. All right, all cleaned up and painted, and you may be asking, why would I just hit it with spray paint? My question is, why not? It's underneath the seat. It's now going to be underneath the lockbox. I don't really care. So anyway, your mileage may vary. All right, now I'm just going to move my seat back into place. I'm making a big assumption that my hole's drilled in the right spot. But the only way to know for sure is to put the seat back in, so I may as well put it back in all the way. And then if it is right, I'm done. So I'm putting these in loosely now until I start the front bolts. So this guy is going in. And I'm just lightly, again, just a couple threads on these front ones. And if I did this right, this bolt will go through and down into the floor hole. And it does. That makes me happy. All right, so I'm gonna shoot some RTV there to seal that joint. So in between, basically where that hole is in the floor, I'm just gonna cover it up, stab a bolt through, and that should seal it around and waterproof that connection before I tighten it down. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish these guys. These need to go to 45 foot-pounds. All right, so I'm gonna stick some RTV silicone in here. Hopefully you can see that big blob. And that is what's gonna seal that connection when I tighten that. And then the washer and lock nut from underneath. All right, a 1/2 inch underneath here. And then if you have a friend who can go in and hold the inside, it's a 3/16 Allen, then that will be super helpful. Because I don't know anybody that's got arms long enough to be able to hold both sides at the same time. I'm gonna go get help. All right, now that that's done, and slide the seat back, finish these seat bolts. I'm gonna put some thread lock on it. I think actually they probably came from the factory with red, but I'm gonna use blue. All right, now that everything's in, we can replace our drawer. Once you get the door clicked in, the first shove back takes a little pressure. Just make sure it moves freely before you torque down these front two brackets, because they do control the width of this box. There we go. It's good and tight, that's for sure. All right, the final thing I'm gonna do is use the 2 zip ties and use those inside holes that we pulled the bracket off of and just zip tie these two wire harnesses in place. Easily done with this already installed if you can find the hole. I know, that's what she said. I know what you guys are thinking. And number two, I'll cut those off. But for now, I just want to say that is it. That's the install of the Tuffy Security Products concealed carry under driver's seat lockbox for the JK Unlimited. Yeah, this could have been a 10-minute job if I just did those front bolts, but I always go the extra mile. Hopefully it helps you guys. Anyway, if you've got carpet, don't worry. Everything's exactly the same. Trust me. That's it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.